Saudi Arabia once proposed a city unlike anything on Earth. A mirrored structure, 500 meters tall, stretching 170 kilometers across the desert. No streets, no cars, 9 million residents, and every daily need supposedly within a 5-minute walk. It was called the line. But the line now being discussed is much shorter. The original concept sounds simple because the render shows one clean object. In reality, it is closer to building dozens of Manhattan-sized districts inside 2 continuous walls. Every section needs foundations, power, water, cooling, ventilation, emergency access, the scale is the and first a high-speed transit system. 170 kilometers is roughly the distance from New York City to Philadelphia. The initial segment reported for 2030 is about 2.4 kilometers. Put them on the same screen and the difference is brutal. The first phase is little more than 1% of the original length. Then comes the material. A 500-meter tall structure is already a super tall skyscraper. The line tried to repeat that height for mile after mile. Even if each section were technically possible, repeating it across desert terrain multiplies the concrete, steel, labor, roads, cranes, and logistics. The shape creates another challenge. A normal city spreads into a network. If one road closes, people can move around it. A linear city concentrates movement into a narrow spine. That makes the promised high-speed transit system essential, not optional. A breakdown in the center could affect everything beyond it. That transport promise is one of the project's most dramatic claims. The early concept imagined journeys from one end of the line to the other in roughly 20 minutes. To do that across 170 kilometers, a train would need extraordinary average speed, very few stops, and almost no delay. But a city also needs local movement. People must reach homes, schools, shops, hospitals, and workplaces. Express trains are fast because they skip stations. Urban trains are useful because they stop often. The line would need both systems working inside the same narrow corridor. Density creates advantages, but it also creates pressure. Compact cities can reduce travel distance and protect open land. Yet successful urban neighborhoods normally grow around many streets, public squares, parks, and alternate routes. In a building only 200 meters wide, every public space competes with structure, elevators, utilities, deliveries, and emergency circulation. The project is not merely designing apartments inside a long building. It is trying to reproduce the complexity of an entire city inside a controlled piece of architecture. Emergency planning becomes especially important. In a conventional city, fire crews and ambulances can approach from different streets. Residents can leave in several directions. Inside a continuous wall, smoke control, evacuation stairs, refuge floors, and access for rescue teams must operate across thousands of connected sections. Engineers can design solutions for each problem. The difficulty is making every solution work together, at enormous scale, for decades. And the mirrored exterior is not just an architectural choice. It has to survive desert heat, dust, wind, expansion, maintenance, and bird impacts across an enormous surface. The render is smooth, the operating city would not be. The desert climate adds another layer. Glass and metal absorb and reflect solar energy. Sand enters mechanical equipment. Temperature changes make long structures expand and contract. A normal tower handles those movements across a single footprint. The line would have joints repeated along its entire length. Cleaning the mirrored surface alone would become a permanent industrial operation. A beautiful facade in a promotional film has no dust, replacement panels, service cranes, or maintenance crews. A real facade needs all of them. Water is equally fundamental. Northwestern Saudi Arabia has coastline, but very little fresh water. A city of millions would depend heavily on desalination, pipelines, storage, and recycling. Desalination requires energy and produces concentrated brine that must be managed carefully. The engineering is possible. Saudi Arabia already operates major desalination systems. But every new resident increases the demand for water, electricity, food logistics, and waste treatment. Population is not simply a number placed inside a rendering. There is also a construction sequence problem. A normal city can grow district by district. The first neighborhood can function while the next one is being built. The line's strongest ideas depend on continuity, the transit spine, shared utilities, and the relationship between both walls. If only a short section exists, it must still feel complete enough for people and businesses to move in. That means the first phase cannot be treated as a small fragment. It has to operate like a convincing city from day one. Money changes the equation too. Saudi Arabia is funding airports, tourism resorts, sports, industry, and a post-oil economy at the same time. Recent reporting says the line is being recalibrated as NEOM shifts attention toward projects that can open sooner and generate revenue earlier. This is why timelines matter as much as total cost. A project can be valuable in the distant future and still create a financial problem today. Workers, materials, equipment, and infrastructure must be paid for long before residents arrive. Tourism resorts and industrial facilities can begin generating income in smaller stages. A continuous megacity takes longer to reach the moment when its economic activity matches its construction bill. Reducing the first phase is therefore not only an engineering decision, it is a way to reduce risk and learn from a smaller operating section. Megaprojects often change without being officially abandoned. Governments rarely move from a spectacular announcement directly to cancellation. They adjust schedules, redefine phases, and prioritize the parts that can be delivered. That is why headlines about the line can sound contradictory. One report describes major construction, another describes reductions. Both can be true. Excavation and infrastructure can continue while the final scale, population, and completion date become less certain. That does not mean NEOM has vanished. Infrastructure has been built. Excavation is visible. Other parts of the region, including industry, tourism, and data center plans, remain active. But the dream is being forced into phases that engineering and finance can actually support. NEOM is larger than the line. It includes coastal tourism, an industrial port, renewable energy ambitions, and mountain development. Some of those projects can operate independently. Their progress does not guarantee that the original 170-kilometer city will appear as first presented. But it does mean the entire program cannot be reduced to a simple success or failure headline. The first occupied section will be the real test. Will people want to live in a city organized vertically instead of around streets? Can businesses receive deliveries efficiently? Can public spaces feel open inside a narrow structure? Can the transit system move residents without becoming a daily bottleneck? Computer models can predict these behaviors, but only an operating neighborhood can reveal how they interact. If that first section works, the line could expand gradually and influence future urban design even if it never reaches 170 kilometers. If it struggles, the project may become a collection of shorter districts rather than one continuous city. Either result would still teach architects and engineers something important about extreme density, automated infrastructure, and building in harsh climates. This is the part megaproject renderings hide. A concept image can jump directly to the finished skyline. Construction cannot. It has to solve one foundation, one power line, one train, and one occupied building at a time. The line may still become a remarkable piece of architecture, but its most important lesson is already visible. The bigger the promise, the more reality lives in the first 2.4 kilometers. So is Saudi Arabia abandoning its futuristic city, or finally turning a spectacular idea into something buildable?